This is Top 30.
Welcome to the show. I'm Kristen Smith.
And I'm Richard Bacon. We have 30 stories in 30 minutes. Here is the first one. The cost of borrowing just went up, and his first announcement as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell raised the benchmark interest rate to a range of 1.5 to 1.75%. The impact will be felt immediately for many people with credit cards. Most have variable rates that follow the Fed rate. Americans have over $1 trillion in outstanding balances. The increase will mean more than $1.5 billion in added finance charges in 2018. Both adjustable rate and fixed rate mortgages will get more expensive. Experts recommend locking in a fixed rate now to protect against future increases. Auto loans are expected to go up. The current average rate for a 5-year auto loan is 4.46%, but the higher rates are good for savings. The yield will go up on savings accounts and certificates of deposit. This week's announcement means interest rates are the highest that they have been in a decade.
A massive recall has been issued for about 452,000 smoke alarms in the U.S. made by the fire safety brand Kidde. The company says a yellow cap left on some models may compromise the alarm's ability to detect smoke. And Celine Dion has temporarily canceled her Las Vegas residency.
And that's the way it is.
She'll undergo a minimally invasive surgery to correct an ear condition and will return to the stage May 22nd. And watch the excitement from Austin Eccleston when he finds out he's getting a new heart. That's his doctor dressed as his favorite Star Wars character, Chewbacca. Austin underwent the heart transplant on March 17th and is reportedly recovering well.
Let's go to the New York Stock Exchange for our Fox Business Minute with your friend and mine, Nicole Pedalides. Nicole, I hear that you have some difficult news.
That's right, Richard. The price of a box of Cheerios may go up. That's because General Mills is facing higher ingredient and shipping costs that are eating into its profits. Other food makers, such as Campbell's and Hershey's, are experiencing similar hurdles. So we may start to see businesses pass on more of their own rising costs to their customers. Talk about all or nothing. Tesla may have experienced production hell, but the company's shareholders agreed to hand over billions of dollars to Elon Musk if he manages to popularize his electric cars over the next decade. With this compensation plan, he could take home as much as $56 billion in stock or nothing. Toys R Us is going out of business sales, or they're in effect right now. The retailer will offer massive discounts as it looks to shed its remaining inventory by June.
And Nicole, are all stores going to be closed?
The idea is to save about 200 U.S. stores. If Toys R Us stores closes all of its stores, it could result in up to 33,000 layoffs.
And that is a huge number. Nicole, in New York, thank you.
A new football league is scheduled to start next year with various rule changes that organizers say will make the game faster and more exciting. Television and movie producer Charlie Ebersol and former NFL executive Bill Polian announced plans for the league called the Alliance of American Football. They said the game will be 2.5 hours, which is shorter than a typical NFL game. To do that, the league will have a 30-second play clock instead of the NFL's 45 and will eliminate television timeouts. Some other rule changes include getting rid of kickoffs and forcing teams to go for 2 after a touchdown. The league announced a partnership with CBS, which will show some games and broadcast others on its cable network. Details of the teams and locations will be announced in the next 3 months, and the first game is scheduled for February 9th of next year, 1 week after the Super Bowl. This is the second football league announced recently. Vince McMahon is resurrecting the XFL in 2020. It folded after its inaugural season in 2001.
Welcome back to Top 30. San Francisco city leaders approved a proposal to ban the sale of fur, becoming the largest city in the United States to do so. The ban takes effect January 1st and has outraged some business owners, Kristen. Outraged.
Yeah, fur is big business. I mean, San Francisco Chamber estimates fur sales in the city are $40 million a year. Their argument is this isn't a city leader discussion. This should be left to a vote so the people can decide what they think.
One business owner said, this is how I imagine him talking.
Yes.
What's next? they're going to say you can't have beef and you can't have pork and duck in Chinatown. I mean, it's a little too much. What fur is about is what is seen as the unnecessary killing of wildlife.
Yeah.
There is a completely different argument about getting nutrients from meat to the need to wear the skin of a rabbit.
Well, now to a controversy surrounding a service animal. We've heard a lot about bringing service animals on planes, bringing comfort animals on planes.
We have.
This story, though, is about taking a service dog in an Uber. A Texas woman with cerebral palsy filed a lawsuit accusing Uber drivers of canceling rides with her because she has a service dog. This would violate the Americans with Disability Act, she says.
Yeah.
So, you know,
this... like 25 times or something? It was a lot, wasn't it?
Several times, 25 times. This woman relies on her service dog to keep her balance and to get around. She says the Uber drivers make various excuses, having allergies, not having seat covers, not wanting the fur to get everywhere, expensive cleaning, things like that.
It may be an issue of the nature of Uber, which is you just become one overnight, and no one has properly explained to you the legal rights of your customer. You haven't had that training.
Yeah.
So these drivers are in the wrong. You absolutely have a legal right to take a service animal in a car.
Well, this woman says that she was given a $5 reimbursement fee for her inconvenience and a promise to not be paired with the same driver. But Uber is not officially commenting on this specific case, but in its community guidelines, the company does specifically reference service animals, saying, quote, a driver cannot lawfully deny service to riders with service animals because of allergies, religious objections, or a generalized fear of animals. So they cannot refuse service.
I think I'd be so annoyed by being given a $5 reimbursement that I'd rather be given nothing. Here is a sports story that has a lot of people talking. Serena Williams lost in the first round of a tennis tournament in Miami. She was facing a very tough player in that match because she missed 13 months and lost her #1 ranking. Critics say she was punished for leaving the game to have a baby. And when you are ranked #1 or very high, in the earlier stages of a tennis tournament, you play lower ranked players, with the idea being that the best players all funnel up to the top and you get the big names at the end. And what's happened is, because they've taken away her ranking, she's playing great players at the beginning.
Right.
And obviously the argument is, she had to have a baby.
She had a baby.
She couldn't play.
You know what's funny? This has happened so many times. These have been the rules for a long time. However, Serena is the biggest name. So now we are looking at this like, oh my gosh, this isn't fair. What does the chief of the Women's Tennis Association say about this?
I'm glad you asked, Kristen. He says players have traditionally said that anyone coming back from a long-term layoff for any reason should not be allowed to be seeded.
Yeah.
She is the best female tennis player of all time, and she should probably be seeded. I've given you all the impression that I'm far more passionate about tennis than I really am. Top 30, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Top 30. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has addressed the company's data breach scandal. The announcement comes after reports that Cambridge Analytica access records of 50 million Facebook users. He says in a statement, we have a responsibility to protect your data, and if we can't, then we don't deserve to serve you.
Yeah, and he outlined a lot of practical ways going forward to better protect our data. For example, conducting a full audit of any app with suspicious activity, ban any developer from Facebook that doesn't agree to a thorough audit, things like that.
Facebook does still sell your data. And your friends' data. They do that. I was watching an interview that Mark Zuckerberg gave in 2009 to the BBC, where he said that they would never sell or share users' data. And that part of their business model radically changed.
Even myself, I'm like, hope my stuff is safe when it comes to Facebook, you know?
It just looks as though it practices a certain dark arts that we weren't really familiar with and didn't understand. And I do think this is damaging for them, and I think it's probably long-term damaging for them.
All right, well, a team of researchers found that when most people are asked to draw a leader, they draw a man. Women in the workplace are kind of like a catch-22. Yeah. When you exemplify the stereotypical behavior as a man, you're looked down upon, right? Yeah. Like, you're not meeting gender expectations. However, when you embrace the stereotypical traits that a woman has, like more emotional, you're not respected.
When a lot of people ask to draw a leader, they draw me, Kristen.
Stick figure. Big head. Like a body.
Definitely a big head.
Stick head.
There was loads of research, to your point there, during the 2016 election, which showed, as a female leader, if you express emotion, that gets a negative response from the audience, and especially men in the audience. Whereas when a man expresses emotion or anger, as Donald Trump did regularly, they are seen as assertive. So Hillary knew this.
Yeah.
Then gave very measured speeches, and people said, oh, she's boring.
I love this report because it made me think about my own self and kind of look in the mirror and think, wait, if someone were to ask me to draw a leader, what would I draw? You know, at home, break out a paper and pen. You know, tell your kids to draw a leader. Do it yourself. I think it's really fascinating.
The pictures are hilarious.
Looks like my 3-year-old son drew that one.
Yeah, I know. When people are asked to draw leaders, not only do they draw men, they appear to draw really quite ugly men.
Yes.
Top 30, we'll be right back.
In today's Hometown Stories from Fox 2 Detroit, this past December, Johnny Alexander became Henry Ford Hospital's first successful recipient of an artificial heart. On Sunday, after months of recovering, he was given his first day pass to leave the hospital. And the first place he wanted to visit? The Redeemed Missionary Baptist Church, where he's the pastor, singing songs of praise and spreading the message of hope.
No matter how bad it looks, there is hope.
Our next story from Fox 4 Dallas. Tax season is a pain for most people, but for Gilbert Bellamy, it's a time to give back. For the past 10 years, the retired auditor for the Department of Defense has volunteered at VITA, a free tax service the United Way provides to people in North Texas who make $58,000 a year or less, helping people get tax credits and saving money that would have gone to preparation fees. And by April 17th, Gilbert will have donated 1,000 volunteer hours. Our final story from Fox 29 Philadelphia. The Girl Scouts Silver Award is an honor given to those making a difference in their communities. And when it came time for Dylan Beagle to earn her Silver Award, she knew exactly what she wanted to do: create a memorial for her friend Pat, who passed away. By looking up tutorial videos and convincing the local Home Depot to donate supplies, she accomplished her goal: a bench surrounded by wildflowers in the Detective Christopher Jones Memorial Park. She believes the bench will help others lovingly remember the friend who left far too soon. A senior high school student used an engineering assignment to create a prosthetic leg for a 3-legged dog in need. We've got that student, Ben Brucktrup from Kaukauna High School in Wisconsin, Skyping in with us today. Hi, Ben.
Hi, nice to be here.
So your teacher asked you to design a device for someone with a disability, and you chose a dog. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so Mr. Lawrence, my engineering teacher, he just got a new puppy recently, so he happened to meet this 3-legged dog at a puppy training class. And so he put the two of us together, and we got to talking, and we decided it was definitely something that, you know, I could help contribute to.
I understand there are 20 pieces to this prosthetic leg. How did you come up with the design?
Well, I looked at a bunch of different models across the internet. It started with 20. Since then, I've kind of moved on to a new version that only has 3. So it's a little simpler. But it's very, very versatile, and it'll hopefully grow with the dog because he's still a puppy, so obviously he's still growing. So this prosthetic is designed to grow with the dog so that he's always comfortable.
So you obviously have a bright future ahead of you. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Next year, I'm hoping to attend University of Minnesota, Twin Cities.
Nice.
There, I'm looking to study aerospace engineering and hopefully work for, you know, a company like SpaceX or NASA. I mean, that's kind of my dream job.
Ben, thank you so much. I think your innovation is awesome, and we wish you all the success in the world.
Yes, thank you so much.
The third richest man in the world has a $100,000 salary and spent half of that reimbursing his company for things like stamps and personal phone calls. Warren Buffett manages $170 billion as the CEO for investment company Berkshire Hathaway. His $100,000 salary has remained unchanged for the past 25 years, and it won't be going up this year either. In a securities filing, the company's board said they are not proposing a salary increase because Buffett doesn't want one. And the findings also show he actually reimbursed the company $50,000 last year for personal expenses like stamps and phone calls. Buffett owns almost 40% of the company, so he's worth an estimated $87 billion, but he seems to go out of his way to undervalue himself for the benefit of his company's shareholders. A researcher says he has a new and unique way to fight the opioid outbreak and help users get over their addiction. USA Today interviewed Noah Robinson, a graduate student at Vanderbilt, who believes virtual reality technology can transport addicts into various situations that may make it easier for them to deal with their issues. The addict puts on a headset, and what they see are various rooms that are designed to serve different purposes. For example, one room may be where the therapist talks directly to the patient. Another may be a virtual simulation of the addict learning how to turn down an opportunity to do drugs. Robinson believes the VR will separate people from their fears and they can absorb more information from therapy. He says about 60 patients have used the technology and is developing a scientific study designed to see just how successful virtual reality can be in treating those patients.
Pew Research released a sweeping study that compared millennials today to their grandparents when they were young. And it highlighted the shifting social dynamics in the past 5 decades that have shaped current American culture. One of the biggest changes was in education, especially for women. Millennial women are 4 times more likely to hold at least a bachelor's degree than women in the silent generation were. They would be in their 70s and 80s today. And now women are more likely to hold a bachelor's degree than men, a significant reversal from previous generations. Millennials are also marrying later in life than their grandparents did. Almost 60% of millennials between the ages of 21 and 36 said they'd never been married, compared to only 17% of the silent generation when they were in the same age range. And millennials overwhelmingly prefer to live in the city over the country. Nearly 90% of millennials live in metro areas, compared to 2/3 of the silent generation when they were young. With this in mind, who knows what world our children's children will create?
A new company wants to make parking easier. Chord was created by Sidewalk Labs and funded by Google's parent company, Alphabet. The firm will provide a color-coded map of every single curb within a city, including loading zones and whether parking is paid or free. It began with San Francisco. Employees walked the streets and photographed every parking sign. Augmented reality then read the various warnings and produced a map. The company made the map available for any site or app to use for free. So far, it's been used by Google Maps and car-sharing company Zipcar. Ride-sharing and delivery apps have become increasingly popular, and many of them rely on curbs for pickup and drop-off. The data can be used by businesses or private citizens to look for parking and make sure they're in a space legally. But the company also hopes it will be used by cities to manage their space better and to cut down on congestion. The hit show Wicked Tuna follows fishermen as they try to reel in the lucrative Atlantic bluefin tuna. In this week's episode, one fish gives the crew all they can handle. Here is a preview in today's Nat Geo Minute.
We've been on this fish for about 7 hours. The stakes are pretty high. He's still at 50 feet. He's really not showing signs of getting tired, and
there he goes again.
It's getting really frustrating. Yeah.
Got your header off the rod again. Kidding me.
It's a really big one. We got a quick look at him at the boat, but he's not done yet.
Watch the full episode of Wicked Tuna Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Nat Geo.
A new study suggests cell phone radiation could pose a danger to pregnant women. Researchers from Kaiser Permanente found that a woman's risk of miscarriage almost tripled when their exposure to non-ionizing radiation increased. That type of radiation is given off by cell phones, as well as cordless phones, wireless networks, power lines, and microwaves. The findings don't prove that cell phone radiation directly causes miscarriages, but one of the study's authors called it a serious looming public health challenge. That's because devices that use cell signals and Wi-Fi are becoming more and more common. Experts say that people who are concerned about radiation can reduce their exposure by keeping cell phones and other wireless devices away from their bodies. A new ride-sharing app launched in Toronto last week, and it's said to be for women by women. It's called Drive Her Transportation, and the all-female company was founded by Aisha Addo, who says it's a matter of choice and creating options. The idea is that women who have been made to feel uncomfortable during a taxi ride or ride shares driven by men will now have an alternative. The female drivers undergo a screening test and background check before they can get behind the wheel for Drive Her, who says men currently account for 85.1% 51% of drivers in the taxi industry. Addo said there are a lot of women who have experienced some level of violence, some level of attack, some level of assault, some level of even harassment. Well, this sounds like a pretty good idea, I'm guessing it will catch on very quickly.
Yeah, probably will. Here is what's coming up in the next show. New research says it's getting even harder for first-time home buyers. Their options are getting smaller and more expensive. And a couple got some help from family members in recreating their first date from more than 50 years ago. Top 30 also covers more of today's stories live on Facebook daily, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. It's all coming up on the next Top 30.